Welcome back to another Planet Doug early morning video experiment. The funny thing is that my morning routine is usually to be sitting somewhere like this, of course, drinking a cup of coffee, something like this, and I would have my laptop on my lap and I would write a journal entry. So this little video experiment is a little bit in the vein of what would it be like to do a video journal entry, like a video update instead of writing in my journal. And if I were writing in my journal, the first thing I always do is make a note at the very top of the date, the time, my location, basically, kind of like a byline. So it's a Friday right now, October 7th, just after 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting in my room in my Airbnb in Georgetown, Penang. And if I was writing in my journal, I'd probably start off with the setting. I don't hear any rain outside, so that's good. It might be a morning without rain. I just heard the call to prayer from the local mosque. It just ended. I hear it every morning at about, well, exactly 6 a.m. I think is when the call to prayer happens. I think about that quite often, this idea that in countries like this, a lot of things happen early in the morning, and a lot of foreigners like me, we miss it because we're doing things like this early in the morning. You know, we don't get out there as early as perhaps, the local people might. So if you go outside early, in a Chinese community, you might find all kinds of stuff going on. Of course, the early morning fish markets are busy and bustling right now, even though it feels like the world is still asleep. But the markets are busy, particularly, the wet markets. And, in the parks, of course, you've got the classic morning people doing the Tai Chi and things like that. Out on the streets right now, the monks from the various Buddhist temples in this neighborhood would be walking up and down the street, going from home to home, and with their bowls, and they're getting donations of food and money. And a lot of elderly people have a habit of like waking up, early in the morning. And it's part of their routine to sit somewhere near the street waiting for the monks to come. And then the monks will show up, and then they will give them an offering, and then the monks will generally, give them a blessing in return. There might be, a little bit of singing or chanting if there's a group of monks. And that's part of the daily routine of a lot of elderly people, elderly Buddhist people. I've seen that quite a bit. And early in the morning, you have the 6 a.m. call to prayer. And if you were outside, you might see all these men just like rushing to the mosque, like just to get there right at 6 for the, the morning prayers. There's this like big rush of activity as they arrive. And then they all kind of stroll out afterwards and then go to start their day. And all that activity is happening right now out there while I'm sitting here in this room where it feels like everyone in the world is still asleep. I find that interesting, and I enjoy going out early in the morning from time to time, and you see that different world. And if I were writing in my journal, I'd probably talk a little bit about technology, because there's always some sort of a technological adventure. It's almost the first thing I encounter every morning when I wake up. Technology just dominates my life. So, for example, yesterday I completed a video that I want to post to Planet Doug, and that video was actually another experimental video where I had dinner and then I went for a walk, and the whole time I was telling the story of my train trip from Bangkok to here. And I'm editing the video of that train trip right now. So I'm working on that video, and I hope to post it right away. But I don't know, I was talking in a previous video a little bit about how when you do a lot of journal writing or like videos, you're on YouTube, you end up thinking of time a little bit differently because you're living in different time periods simultaneously, and you're doing different things in different time frames, you know, and even physically it feels like it. So here I am, I'm editing the video about my train trip, and then I shot a video talking about that train trip. And now I'm talking about it in real time. You know, it's just like, what's going on? But I finished this video telling the story of the train trip. It's sort of like this video is the real-time story shot when it was happening. And then the video about the story time is sort of like behind the scenes of that whole experience. So I was finished it and I was going to upload it. But I had to go to bed. It was late at night by that point, and it was bedtime. So I thought, no problem, I will upload it during the night. And normally I'm editing on a smartphone, and I kind of know what I'm doing there, but I'm switching over to the MacBook more and more. It's just a more powerful machine. It works faster for copying files, exporting files, things like that. But because I'm using this more, I'm running into things I don't understand. And one thing I don't understand is how this computer goes to sleep, because I set it to upload the video, you know, upload to YouTube. I entered all the details and there it is, it's uploading. And then I set the computer aside, plugged into power for the whole night, and I was just going to leave it there and let it work throughout the night to upload the video. I used to do that all the time when I had a Windows laptop. I do it all the time with a smartphone. Works fine. But the Mac, I woke up this morning and it just went to sleep and it just shut down the job. And it does that all the time. And I don't know how to keep this laptop active doing the job I've told it to do. It just wants to go to sleep. It's like a very lazy computer. Yeah, I'm very confused about MacBooks, I have to say. But yeah, I woke up this morning and I was hoping, oh, that video is going to be uploaded and I'm going to get to work and I'm going to get this done and this done and this done. The very first thing I saw when I turned on the laptop was it had gone to sleep and it was 5% uploaded. You know, it uploaded 5% of the video and then it just went to sleep. It figured, that's enough work. I'm done. Sorry, Doug. You're going to sleep. I'm going to sleep, you know. I don't know how to stop it. I'm so confused. So you know, the upload is going now 15%. And of course I have it connected to Wi-Fi through my phone. And yeah, I'm up to 15%, but yeah, it's going to take a long time to upload. So that was my one technology adventure. The other is I'm trying to figure out how to operate my cameras through my smartphone. And it's working this morning. I had to spend quite a while figuring this out. It's 6 a.m. now that I'm talking to you, but a lot happened before 6 a.m. just to get all this technology up and running. But if you look at that, you can see I have the screen on my phone. My phone is now operating the camera, which is kind of cool. But it's a very confusing system for the Wi-Fi connection with the camera, and I had to spend a lot of time this morning figuring it out. Basically what I did was I was trying to do this yesterday and I couldn't figure it out, and so I started all over again. You know, I wiped everything clean, deleted, because you have to register the camera in the app, and when I tried to connect the Wi-Fi, it kept saying a camera is already registered. And I was like, I know, I'm just trying to connect to that camera. Anyway, I couldn't figure it out. But now I decided to just start over again, and I deleted the camera I had registered and I re-registered it and I started over again. And I don't know what I did, but it has been successful. But there are some issues. One, again, is the tracking business, where I have it set to face tracking. So I want the focus to be locked onto my face rather than trying to focus on other things in the room or anything behind me. And normally you get a white box over your face. And on the camera, I get a white box before I start recording But when I hit record and I'm actually need to know whether it's focus tracking or not, then the white box disappears. It just doesn't show the box anymore. So I think it is locked onto my face and focus tracking, but I have no visual confirmation from the camera anymore that it's actually doing that. And when I switch to the Wi-Fi app, I lose both. Before I hit record, there's no face tracking, and after I hit record, there's still no face tracking. So I assume it is face tracking, but I have no visual confirmation that it's doing that. But so far the connection has been stable. It hasn't disconnected, so that's cool. So those are my technology adventures, you know, so far this morning. And if I were writing in my journal after summarizing my technology life, I'd probably move on to yesterday. I'd tell the story of what I did yesterday. And of course, one thing I did yesterday, first thing in the morning, was set up this camera and record a video replying to comments. And I really enjoyed doing that. That was a lot of fun. It was kind of a successful experiment because it went fast. The key thing about this type of video is it requires no editing. I just turn on the camera, I talk, I stop talking. I have one chunk of video essentially, and then I upload it through the Mac, which is faster, and then it's done. So it's like a real-time video. And I'm trying to move more in that direction. So I did that first thing in the morning. And then yesterday was kind of a YouTube day. I didn't really go out exploring. I didn't shoot any new Planet Doug video yesterday. I didn't go anywhere in particular. I just needed a day to get organized. So I was editing a video about the National Museum in Bangkok. I went there on my last day in Bangkok, and I edited that video and finished it, exported it, and uploaded it yesterday. And it's done uploading. So it's now on the channel. It's just not live yet. Then I went to do that story time video about the train trip, and I finished that. And in the middle of all that, I'm using DaVinci Resolve right now. That's my editing program on the Mac. And I figured out, do you want to hear about more technology? Of course you do. I figured out something so important because I've had a really troubled relationship with DaVinci Resolve. Everyone raves about it because it's an extremely powerful editing program, and it's completely free, and it's available for every platform, you know, Windows PC and Apple Mac, you know. So if you don't have your own editing program, like if you haven't purchased Premiere Pro or any of the other dozens of them out there, DaVinci Resolve is always there waiting for you. But I've had trouble with it, all kinds of trouble. It's hard to figure out that program. And to be honest, it's way more powerful than I need. It's a full-featured professional program. And 98% of it I don't use. I just need the very basic 2%, really. So it's overkill for me using a program like that. But the controls wouldn't work properly all the time, and I could not. There was like weird things would happen constantly, and I would ask DaVinci Resolve experts for advice, like, this is happening, and they could never understand what was happening either, and I was never able to do it. But yesterday I figured out that this MacBook was purchased in Thailand, and it has an English keyboard and a Thai keyboard. And you switch to the Thai keyboard by hitting the like capital lock button. Actually, I don't even know what that button is because it doesn't actually, there is no caps lock key on this keyboard that I can find. It doesn't exist. That always confuses me too. But where it should be caps lock, it has a key that has a Thai character on one side and the letter A on the other. And you hit that button and it switches from Thai to English, Thai to English. And I figured out because I accidentally hit that key all the time, because I think I'm trying to hit the shift key to get a capital letter, and it's right beside the shift key, but I accidentally hit the shift lock key, but it's not a shift lock key, it's a language switching key. So by accident, I switch to Thai. And if I'm typing, I see it right away, like I'm typing away, and suddenly I'm getting Thai characters, like, I switched to Thai again, and I have to keep hitting that button to cycle back to get to English, and then I can keep going. But if you do that while you're in DaVinci Resolve, it changes the entire keyboard, which I did not know. The battery died on my camera, so I had to change batteries. And then when the battery died, of course, I lost the app Wi-Fi connection, and I can't get it back again. No matter what I do, I cannot. I hit the button here to do it, and it just says couldn't connect. Like it does, like searching for devices. You have to just hit the button, remote control of your camera, and you get a symbol that says searching for your device, and then it searches and searches and searches, and at the end it just says no device found. And I cannot get that fixed. The only way I can do it is to start all the way from the beginning again, re-register the camera, and in the registration process, at that point I can make a Wi-Fi connection. But once the camera is registered in the app, from that point on, it can never find the camera. Even like Wi-Fi is on, everything is set up correctly, but I think, but it just won't work. Anyway. Technology adventures. And they wonder why YouTubers are exhausted, or at least this YouTuber is exhausted all the time. You have to do all this work just to begin doing your actual work, you know? It's crazy. And just before the battery died, I was talking about another technology problem with my keyboard and DaVinci Resolve, and this idea of it switching into Thai, like the Thai version of the keyboard by accident, is a big problem, because I use keyboard shortcuts all the time. I mean, everybody does who masters one of these programs. You eventually switch to keyboard shortcuts. It's much faster than using the mouse to do everything. So if you want to split the video, for example, you're editing a video, you want to cut it at a certain point and delete something, you use Command B, and Command B cuts the video. You know, Command B, Command B. And suddenly, out of nowhere, I hit Command B, and it doesn't work. Instead of cutting the video, it changes Resolve into another mode where I have to use the razor blade cutting tool using the mouse. Every time I hit Command B, it switches to that mode. I'm like, how do I get out of that mode? And I'm trying to get back to whatever mode I was in before, where the shortcut commands are working, and I can't find it. And I use this other command, which is Command Shift Square Bracket, a very powerful command, and that deletes everything from the cursor to the left for that bracket, or Command Shift other square bracket, and it deletes everything from the playhead, not the cursor, from the playhead to the right. And using that simple command makes things much, much faster. And suddenly, out of nowhere, I would use that command and it would delete everything to the left or to the right, but then it wouldn't close the gap. And it's supposed to close the gap. Once you delete something, you got a big empty space. But when you delete something, you want everything on the right to move over. And normally it does. But suddenly, out of nowhere, it wouldn't do that anymore. And I'm pulling out my hair. And I realized that this was happening because I hit the language switch key by accident. I'd switched the keyboard to Thai. And in Thai, those keyboard commands are mapped differently, I guess. So every time now that DaVinci Resolve stops working, I just check. It's like, it's set to Thai. That's why. Then I put it back to English, and then everything works normally again. So that was my big technology discovery for yesterday. A good one. So that helped me out a lot. So yeah, I've been using DaVinci Resolve for all these videos lately, just because it's harder to edit than using a smartphone, but it's faster to export and copy files, and by many, many magnitudes. So that's a big advantage. So I'm sort of using it more. And if I were writing in my journal, I'd probably move on to other things I did yesterday. And when I wasn't working on videos and I was out doing something else, like some household tasks or things like that, I was listening to podcasts. And if I were writing in my journal, I'd probably make a few notes about the interesting podcasts I listened to. All day yesterday, I was cycling through Radiolab podcasts. Radiolab is amazing. They make such good shows. They're all of them are fascinating. One interesting thing about Radiolab is sometimes you scan the list of available podcasts that they've posted. Like if you haven't listened to them for a while and you've got, a backlog of 10 new podcasts you haven't heard yet, you scan the titles and sometimes you think, there's nothing here I'm interested in, because you read the title and then you read the description. It's like, oh, that doesn't interest me, and that doesn't. But trust me, it all interests you, no matter what it is. Like, don't even worry about what it's about, what the subject is. Just listen to it. Because I would see these things and I read the title and description. I'm like, well, that's not really up my alley. I'm looking for something else. But if I couldn't find other things, right away. So I thought, well, I'll just listen to it anyway. I start playing and it was fascinating. Like every single one I listened to, even when the topic didn't initially appeal to me, I was just enthralled with all of them. Yeah, I love those other podcasts. But the one that sticks out in my mind, and that if I were writing in my journal, I'd probably write about, was one called Rodney versus Death. That one I was interested in right from the very beginning, because the topic was rabies. And I'm very interested in diseases of all kinds, and in particular these extreme diseases and tropical diseases, to find out about, malaria and Ebola, rabies, anthrax, all these things. They're interesting to learn about. And I thought I knew a lot about rabies, but there was a lot of information in this podcast that I didn't know. And the most interesting, I won't repeat the whole podcast, don't worry, but the most interesting factoid is how it differs from other viruses, because rabies is a virus, and rabies is hands down the most deadly disease on the planet. And a lot of people forget about that. If you ask someone, like, what is the most terrible disease, they'll probably say Ebola, like the most infectious, the highest fatality rate, that kind of thing. But it's nothing compared to rabies. I mean, rabies, by the time you show symptoms of rabies, you're dead, basically. It kills everyone. You can treat it before it gets a foothold. But if you don't know you've been infected with the rabies virus, by the time it shows up and shows symptoms, it's too late. You can't be treated and you will die. So it kind of has a 100% fatality rate, which is just crazy to think about. And they're talking about how the human race has been fighting against rabies forever and not making any progress. Like there has been no real, no cure, there's no vaccine for rabies. And part of the problem is that a normal virus, or most viruses, enter the bloodstream or enter your body in some way, and then they travel through the bloodstream to some part of your body where they start to invade cells, and then they replicate, and then they burst that cell, and then they spread to other cells. Rabies is different because it travels through the human body along a nerve. So, for example, if you get at the story in the podcast is amazing. It's about this girl who, well, I don't want to spoil it, but anyway, she got rabies, and then as the doctors explained it, what the rabies virus does is doesn't go into your bloodstream. It goes into your body and looks for a nerve, and then it grabs hold of the nerve, and then it climbs along the nerve all the way up. Yeah, like if you got bit on your foot or something by a rabid animal, the rabies virus will find a nerve in your foot and then begin this long journey, like a physical journey. They describe it as climbing up the nerve, like a climber climbing up a rope, hand over hand, and it just slowly moves up your body along the nerve, holding it like a rope, and follows this rope all the way up your leg, all the way through your body, because it wants to get to your brain. You know, that's where it lives. That's where it wants to go. And it's smart enough, because of its evolution, to be able to do this. It just climbs the nerve all the way until it reaches your brain. And you can treat rabies if you get it before it gets to your brain. So it's like a race against time. So that's why it's so important. If you get bit by a dog that might have rabies, you have to go get treated, because that rabies virus is now on its journey, climbing up your leg, climbing the nerve, trying to get to your brain. And if they can treat you with antivirals before it gets to your brain, you have a better chance of your immune system mounting a defense and defeating it. So it's a race against time. But if you don't get the vaccine in time and it reaches your brain before you get treatment, then it's too late, and you're pretty much going to die. So it's a crazy, crazy story. And the things the rabies virus does to your body is really, really interesting. And it's terrifying at the same time, because it is in your brain and it can control your behavior in a way that favors the virus, because the virus wants to spread. I mean, it's a living thing, and it wants its species to continue. It wants to grow. It wants new hosts. So it tries to take the body that it's in and make it do things that maximize the chance that you are going to infect other living creatures. And it has all kinds of mechanisms. It uses behavioral changes in the human body. Anyway, the podcast was just fascinating. So I did that during the day, listening to a Radiolab podcast. I went out for lunch, and I went for lunch to the New World Park, which is like a block and a half away. Very convenient place to go for lunch. It's like a food court similar to Yummy Cottage, but more modern. It's more like an outdoor food court in a modern shopping mall, like a shopping mall plaza. It's just more airy, it's lighter, it's brighter. I kind of like Yummy Cottage better, because it feels like I'm somewhere special, like a traditional market space. You know, it's like, oh, look at this interesting Malaysian, cultural atmosphere. Whereas when you go to New World Park, to a certain extent, you could be in any shopping mall in the world. But of course it isn't. It's in Malaysia, it's in Penang. So all the food you can get, I think, is quite good. Local people love that place. I mean, the guy, I met a man there, and he told me that is the best food court in Penang in terms of, environment and comfort and the food you can get there. I kind of prefer Yummy Cottage. I'd go there before I went to New World Park. But yeah, people like that place. So I went there, and I learned about something called, well, yeah, I'm not a food expert, so everything is new to me, because I was sitting at a table, and this man came, because it was very busy, it was lunchtime, and all the tables were full, and this man saw me sitting alone, and he came up and said, "Do you mind if I join you?" I said, "Of course." And then he joined me. It turns out he had dual citizenship. He was born in Malaysia, but now he lived in Canada. So he was a Canadian citizen and a Malaysian citizen, and he currently has a home in Vancouver, but he also has a house here in Penang. So once a year or whatever, he comes back to Malaysia and stays here for a while. Take care of things and go, visit family, visit friends before he goes back to Vancouver. So he was here doing that, And we were talking about all kinds of things. And then his food arrived, and it looked really good, and something I'd never seen before. I says, what is that? And he says, he called it Jawa mee. And I think he said it was from India. And he pointed to where he got it because I wanted to try it. And he pointed out where he got it. And on the signs for this place, sometimes it said mee Jawa, and sometimes it said Jawa mee. You know, just change the word order. But anyway, this is Jawa mee, and it looked like a kind of curry. And I said to him, oh, it has pasta, because it had noodles in it. But he says, no, it's not really pasta, because he thinks of pasta as like Western spaghetti, hard noodles that have to be boiled for a long time to soften them. He said, this isn't pasta, it's noodles, like locally made noodles that have a much softer, fresher texture, I guess, and you basically just have to throw it in hot water and it's ready to eat. To me, that's still pasta, just fast pasta, but he was making a distinction that it was a different type of noodle, like Malaysian noodles. It was wheat-based, not flour. I mean, not rice. It was like wheat pasta. Anyway, and it had a whole bunch of interesting things on top. And I looked it up just now, this morning, and according to the internet, it's not Indian, it's Indonesian, from the island of Java. And maybe that's where Jawa comes from. So it's mee Jawa. Maybe that's translates as Java noodles. Anyway, that's what I'm going to have for lunch today. If I'm in this neighborhood, I'm going to go to New World Park and then have these Jawa mee, or mee Jawa. So that was my food adventure for yesterday. And if I were writing in my journal, at this point, I would probably move on to what I'm going to do today. Because when I write a journal entry, it's, I set the stage, where I am, what time it is, what day it is, what's going on around me right now. Then I often talk about all the technology that I've already had to struggle with. Then I talk about what I did yesterday, and that often leads into some sort of a subject, like rabies, for example, and I'll write about that for a while, the new things I learned. And then, after all that, I turn to, okay, what am I going to do today? And that's, I was talking in my previous experimental video about how I live in different time periods, and that's part of it as well, because I wake up every morning writing in a journal, thinking about what I did yesterday, and then I move on. Well, I start about what I'm doing now, then what I did yesterday, and then I end with what I'm going to do today. And I don't end with what I'm going to do today. Then I go to what I'm going to do today. And I don't really know what I'm going to do today. I am going to go get Jawa mee at some point, but I mean, I have YouTube stuff to do. I've got the National Museum video. I have to work on that, finish the video description and the thumbnail, and set it to post probably today, 5 p.m. Malaysian time, local time. And I'm going to continue editing the GoPro, the video about the trip I took by train from Bangkok. That was all shot on a GoPro, and I'm editing that video. I have to load up a new video onto this phone because I'm editing with two phones now. So I've got the train trip video here. I have to start a new video here, and I'm probably going to do a new video on a laptop, and I'll have 3 of them ongoing at the same time. So I'm going to be doing some YouTube stuff today when I have time. I also today, I think I might try to shoot a YouTube short, which I've never done before, because yesterday I was walking along and I had this phone in my pocket. This is a Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. And I see so many people shooting videos with smartphones, and I just don't like the form factor of smartphones for shooting video. It just doesn't make sense to me to use this. I prefer a dedicated camera, no matter what camera it is. But sometimes, like yesterday, I was out there talking with this man about Jawa mee, and I hadn't brought a camera with me. And I thought, well, I could have recorded on my phone, So like, is this usable? So as I was walking down the street, I started playing around with it, and I didn't like it because I said, I don't know, it's not, it's hard to hold. I'm holding this thing out like that. It just, you're covering up the lens. Like, where is the lens? Oh, it's on this side, and your hand was covering it up, and you're hitting buttons by accident, and I don't know, I just don't like it. But what I learned was, if I use the selfie camera, the lens, the selfie lens, so that I can see the screen, it's not very good. It's too tight on my face, and it bounces a lot. The stabilization isn't good, and the image quality isn't that great. I didn't like it. But then I switched to the main camera, and then I'm holding the phone like this, with the screen facing away from me, so I can't see, but I can see the lens. It's right there. So all I do is hold it like that, and I hold the lens right in front of me, and I set it to wide, because it has, you know, zoom, normal, and wide. And I set it to wide, and then I did a test, and it looked pretty good. It was like nice and wide, which I like, and the stability was okay, and the image quality was much better than the selfie camera. So I thought, huh, you know, that's not bad. You know, this is a usable tool. So I started thinking that during the day I could do little YouTube shorts, which I know about, but I've never done one. You know, it's like a 30-second video clip shot in portrait mode. It has to be in portrait. And then, you know, like if I were eating Jawa mee, I could just turn on the camera and say, oh, I'm trying Jawa mee, and this is what it is. 30 seconds long, and you post it in real time. Boop, it's up there. So you can, you know, I thought I'd play around with YouTube shorts today. So that's another one of my goals for today. I don't know how many things I've listed. I have to arrange my bus ticket to go to Kuala Lumpur next Tuesday, so I might decide what bus line I'm going to use. I have to choose between fancy or normal, because I keep hearing about the Aeroline bus. YouTubers make videos about this bus all the time, you know, like Kuala Lumpur, or Malaysia's most luxurious bus. You know, I took the luxury bus to Penang, and they make a whole video about the luxury of the Aeroline bus. I guess it's the nicest option. And so I could do that, go for the Aeroline, and then I could go buy the ticket, reserve it. I might do it, to be honest. But that would involve, I think, getting on my Brompton and riding to their offices. They're at a fancy hotel or shopping mall somewhere, and I'd like to go there in person and just buy a ticket at the counter and get one for next Tuesday. So that might be a kind of an adventure for today, an errand adventure. And I think that's as far as I've gotten in terms of making a list. Yeah. Oh, and tonight I have dinner with friend or friends. I'm not sure. I've arranged to meet a friend for dinner, a very fancy, like kind of a Western style place at Gurney Paragon shopping mall. There's two Gurneys. There's a Gurney Plaza and a Gurney Paragon. And apparently this restaurant is sort of like a food and beer place. You can get like artisanal beers and a lot of really good Western food and a very casual, modern environment. So I'm meeting a friend there for dinner, and the last time I met him for dinner, some of his friends came too. And I'm hoping some of his friends show up. Yeah, so it'd be nice to have a group of people there. So that's my plan for tonight. And I have other plans, like this same friend, he and I are going to have breakfast Sunday morning at a very special place. I hope to shoot a video about that. And then we're going to the World War II Museum on Penang, which I'm very interested in because I've been reading a lot about the history of Penang, focusing a lot on the Japanese occupation. So I would like to see the World War II Museum and then learn about that. And that's going to be on Sunday. So, there you have it, a morning video journal. And let's see if I can, like right now, literally, I just finished filming it. I'm going to stop the camera, copy it to my computer, have another cup of coffee, and while I'm getting ready for my day, I'll see if I can upload that to YouTube right now, and you will get a real-time, before I've even left my room, video update. Somehow I don't think it'll work. The technology will get in the way. It'll be too slow, the upload, for one thing. But let's see what happens. So, morning journal done, and yeah, time to start my day. And I'll see you in the next video. The next video after this one will probably be my video where I visited the National Museum in Bangkok. And I hope to post that one at 5 o'clock today. See you then.